episode of Sharing a Drink with Matt. Today I'm talking to, again, part two, Phil from Nursery Crimes. How are you, Phil?
Very good, thanks, Matt.
Thanks for coming back on.
No worries. We meet again online.
Yeah, I've been smashing Fun Hurts all week, getting ready for this.
Awesome. We've actually been playing a few of the songs. We've got our first gig with our new drummer actually on Cup Eve at the Bowling Club in Geelong with a heart on. So we've been playing a few of them at rehearsal over the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah, excellent. And what do you, I don't know, it's a hard question to ask. What do you think about Tim? Do you think it's pretty hard on ish? He's fitting well.
When I first heard that he was joining, I thought it was kind of a really good idea. I think they got a lot of publicity out of him joining. And look, Tim is an amazing, songwriter and great performer.
Definitely.
And I've got a lot of respect for him. He's a really talented guy. So I think it's really good. I think it's good that they've kind of evolved in a way, like it kind of means, and for a band that's been at, 40 years, I mean, to keep any band going for that long is amazing in itself. And so I think it's probably allowed them to kind of move on creatively as well. So I think that's a real plus.
Yeah, definitely. So when are they gonna make a documentary about Nursery Crimes?
Well,
The second best Aussie band.
Yeah, the most un-Australian band ever. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, it's interesting. We've got a lot of weird kind of video footage and old bits of stuff floating around. So that'd be fun if someone wanted to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I know a good documentarian that might jump on the bandwagon for that.
There you go.
Anyway, with your music, with your style of music and everything, how do you handle criticism? Like, do you get much bad criticism, or is it all?
I think the thing with criticism and art and music and stuff, I think when you're younger, you sort of take it to heart a bit. But I think when you get a bit older, you just don't care, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think there's always going to be people that don't like certain things. Like even back in the day when we were originally playing around, I suppose there's a bit of a scene, with us and the Meanies and bands like that. And then there was other bands, that, I don't know, like there's always a bit of kind of bickering and infighting and scene rubbish that goes on. But, these days, if someone says, "Oh, look, I don't like them, they suck" or something, I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay."
Yeah. I actually put I don't know if you've ever heard of a Melbourne band called In the Esky.
No, I'll check them out.
Oh, they're great. They're an excellent band. I've got them coming up here at the 9th of November, and we're actually I've checked out this new venue that I'm thinking of taking bands. I've got to pay $450 to have these bands play at that venue.
Okay,
have you ever had that? Have you
Um,
had that in your career where you've had to like?
Probably sometimes it's like that, or sometimes a venue will do a thing where they'll, I don't know, take $2 per head off the door or something. You know what I mean? Or for $1 head. Like sometimes they kind of charge a fee that way. So I have heard of that stuff. You're kind of hiring the venue in a way, Matt. Yeah. So what you're saying, you have to hire it.
I got it down to $350 because they were paying $100 for someone to sit at the door, taking yeah. So I decided, look, I'll sit at the door and I'll do that, which I'm spewing because I really wanted to watch the band. So I hope in this venue I can sit there and watch the bands as well as doing the door.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to you. Have you learnt much about yourself in the music scene, being a musician? Have you gotten in a? Yeah, I'll stick with just how I started that question, I think.
Yeah. Look, that's a big kind of question. I suppose I think when, if I think back to myself, when I was really obsessed, like a lot of people, obsessed with music when I was really young, and that's all I cared about. And when I was a teenager, that's all I cared about, and work, I just wanted to do music, and that's kind of what I did. And then along the way, I think you kind of realize that, okay, you got to pay the bills and, do all the things you got to do in life. And I suppose what I've learned as you get a bit older, you realize, look, music's still really important to me, but you have to have some kind of balance, You have to kind of have a foot in the real world, I suppose. That's probably, but it's still, it's a big part of me, I suppose, for better or worse. I'm still obsessed with music. I still love, writing and doing gigs, and even doing what we're doing now. Like I enjoy it. I still have that passion for it.
Yep. So you were saying you got a new drummer. Are the rest of the band, are they mainly originals?
It's sort of, well, David Dixon, the guitarist, and myself, we're from right at the very start. And our other guitarist, James McGuinness, he was in the band during 1993. So the last kind of year of the original era, if you like. So he's more or less original. So the three of us, and Shane, the bass player, has been playing with us for about 2 years. Shane used to play in Soda Racer with me, which was kind of late 90s, early 2000s. He's great. He's a great bass player. And Dave Ross, our drummer, who's been with us for a few months, people know him. He was in Mass Appeal and Civil Dissident, going back to the mid-80s hardcore scene in Melbourne, and also played with Caligula and heaps of other bands as well. So, and he's great. So it's going really well.
Yep. So I thought the bass guitarist from Mass Appeal went to Caligula. The guy with the dreads.
Yeah, Sean Fonte. Yes, look, you're right. The original lineup of Caligula, had the two Fonte brothers in it, and Dave was in it. So you're right. In effect, two members of Mass Appeal were kind of in Caligula at certain points. Yeah, you're right.
Such a different style of music for both bands. Like, they couldn't be further apart, really, when you think about it.
I know. Well, we did a few shows with Caligula. This is Nursery Crimes, probably back in 91, 92. I remember doing a few shows with them in Melbourne and Sydney. But you're right. Stylistically, it's pretty poles apart.
Yeah. The reason I was asking that question about the band before, I was just wondering, do you find it harder to jump around the stage? Do you find that your intensity has kind of slowed down a bit as you've gone? Because you've been doing this for 35 years, maybe 30 years, 35.
It's almost. I mean, if you look back to David Dixon, who's Nursery Crimes, Dave Dixon, we've been playing in bands together since we were teenagers. And our first proper band, Alligator Parade, was like 85. So it's nearly 40 years for the two of us, off and on, kind of playing together. I think for me personally, I still have that same passion and drive, and I still, like, when we play live, we do it pretty full on. So it still has that kind of energy to it, because we don't play all the time, because I think for us, it's better just to play here and there, and partly that's because we're dysfunctional, but I wouldn't want to be playing every weekend, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of keep it special when you just play here and there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you're not going to get as many punters then if you're doing a weekly show.
That's true. Sure. Yeah. In terms of a live show, and we put a bit of, it's pretty high energy still. Like, it, you don't want to sort of do it. I don't want people to come along and go, oh, it's not as good as what it used to be or whatever. So we try and do it pretty hard.
Yeah. The thing I wanted really mainly about this interview, I think I wanted to talk a lot about, is stories, Nursery Crime stories. Tell me all the details.
Oh, it's pretty funny. Look, there's some pretty funny stuff happened. I mean, as we did initial tours, I suppose one of the first times we went into state with the Hard On. So they took us, I think, to Brisbane and Sydney quite early on, which is great. But we did some crazy tours with the Cosmic Psychos. which is pretty crazy.
Yep.
So I remember Ross Knight coming in one day. I think we were all so we had a gig, right? I think it was at Hobart University with us and the Psychos, and maybe Fridge played as well. It was a mad show, right? So we have a big party afterwards. We're all go to bed, and then like it's 9 o'clock in the morning. We've probably had about 2 hours sleep. And Ross Knight, right, from the Psychos, he barges into our hotel room. He's like, "Come on, boys, time to come down the bar, right? Just come and have the one drink, you know." And we're like, we're really hungover, kind of pulling the doos over our heads. And he literally came in and he lifted up the beds, right, and lifted them up and just tipped us out of our beds because he's a big, strong guy, right? Just tipped us on the floor like we were like toys, right? Bang, come on, dragged us out. And then, 10 minutes later, we're sitting down at the freaking bar with him having a beer. It's like probably 2 minutes past 10 in the morning in Hobart or something. A lot of that kind of stuff happens.
And I bet you didn't stop at the one beer either.
That's right. Yeah, I think Ross Knight. So when Ross Knight would say, "Just come and have the one, boys," the one would, invariably be 20, 21.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I just stories. That's pretty mainly what I want to know. Like, how there's got to be. You like God. You at the beginning you were playing all the time. You were traveling. You were doing. There's got to be some fun shit that happened and some daunting.
A lot of kind of full on stuff happened. I mean, we kind of had a few lineup. Well, the band was always quite volatile, right? And that's probably one of the reasons why we're not like I don't know, like the Meanies or the Hard-Ons, where we've sort of managed to kind of, or Spider-Bait, keep a kind of perennial career going. We've sort of had huge breaks,
Yeah.
So we had a few lineup changes and stuff, and everyone was pretty mad back in those days, Matt. So it's all a bit kind of crazy, but I know the stuff I kind of remember. I think I know we probably touched on a bit of this stuff in the last one, but the stuff I really remember was just the great shows. Like playing at the Lansdowne in Sydney, Lansdowne Hotel, mate. Like they were awesome shows. Maybe did gigs there with. I remember playing there with Mass Appeal. I remember playing there. Probably played there with Spider-Bait and the Meanies, and all that. Did a few of our own shows. Front End Loader, the band we used to play with a fair bit. So
I can remember the different shows that you guys have played by the different colour of your hair. I remember Lansdowne. Yeah, Lansdowne, you were really maroonish colour, reddish colour.
Yeah, there's different things. I mean, blonde at some point, and God knows what else. Different kind of stuff. There's a funny story. We played at the Lansdowne one night, Matt, and it's pretty kind of dumb, really. And we got these like feather pillows, right? Just feather pillows you buy, right? And then during the last song, I just kind of ripped them open and just kind of swung around, and all these fucking feathers, right, are just flying everywhere around the room. And there's some photos of it, and you look up at the stage, it's just all these kind of, feathers floating in the air, and they were just everywhere, right, everywhere. We had to pay at the time. I can't remember, it was something like $150, which is a lot of money then to get the venue cleaned after because there was just feathers and shit everywhere. I remember stuff like that. We actually got banned from the Lansdowne. Ultimately, because people may remember that I'm kind of your age or my age, but there's like those balconies on the second and third floor because it was a backpackers joint, right? So we'd stay there and it'd be like, I don't know, it was $10 each a head, really cheap, right? Stay there, and we'd have these big parties and get drunk and sit out in the balcony, and people would be chucking shit down on the Parramatta Road. So it's really stupid. And I know we must have set off the fire alarms a couple of times. So all the cops and the fire brigade and stuff are coming there and all this crazy shit. So eventually they just said, "That's enough of you guys."
I'm pretty sure you played at the trade union with the Splatterheads at one stage.
I don't think we ever actually played at the trade, Matt, but we definitely did quite a few shows with the Splatterheads. I'm just trying to think of Cardoma Cafe, King's Cross. Is that the venue?
Yes.
The trade was kind of almost when we started. The trade was kind of slowing down. I can't remember when it stopped. Because it's more of an early '80s kind of thing. I don't think we ever played there, but I remember the first or second trip to Sydney, we played with the Splatterheads at at Cardoma, King's Cross, and
Yeah,
maybe
where
Promises in Sylvania. Do
what was that?
you remember that venue? I think it was Promises in Sylvania. Got a vague memory of that, but we definitely did those shows for the Splendid. Yeah, trade, but yeah. And I think we played with them in the Lansdowne too, but we did a couple of shows with them here and there.
Yeah, crazy. Their shows were always absolute craziness.
Yeah, no, we did a few in Melbourne. They played at the Fun Hurts album launch too, at the corner in Melbourne back in the day as well. But I think the first trip we went to Sydney, I think we played with Mass Appeal, like we supported Mass Appeal. This is late '89, and I think we played with Rat Cat as well, and Rocks, I think as well. It was still going up. Rocks are still going up. I think like one of those bands that's been going since the old days.
Yeah, well, they're older. They played more than older than the Hard-Ons.
That's right. Yeah, Rocks are from that kind of '77, from that the Civic Hotel on the early days of Sydney punk. 77,
no
78.
one ever corrected me, but for over 40 years, I've always called them the Rocks.
That's a good question.
I interviewed them.
Rocks, isn't it? Is it just Rocks?
Rocks, yeah. It's just Rocks. But I don't know, when it just comes out when you talk about something and you go you know what I mean? Like the toilets over there.
Yeah. When I was in the Slush Puppies, it was Slush Puppies, but you know what people say, the Slush Puppies. That's
exactly. Yeah,
it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
But going back to what you're saying, I think I always remember, just those just good shows and playing with really bands that you really know your mates with and stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff I remember. We did a lot of the all ages scene was really big in Melbourne in the sort of early '90s, really big. So they'd have Saturday afternoon shows at the corner hotel, and you'd get 500-600 kids turning up, and they were just crazy gigs, And it wouldn't matter whoever. Say there's 4 bands on the bill. If you were playing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, all the kids would be there, like the joint would be packed. Yeah. So when the first band came on, they're playing to a full house. It was great. Yeah, they were great shows. I remember we played with Fugazi, an all-ages show at a venue called The Hull in Croydon, which is outer eastern suburbs in Melbourne. That was amazing too. We had a bit of a run-in with, the Fugazi guys, but apart from that, it's fun.
I think they've got a big stance on politics and everything more than having fun. They're like out there to just give a message, send a message out there than actually.
It was a little bit kind of what really pissed me off. Look, I really respect them and I love Minor Threat and all that kind of stuff. But what I didn't like that night was they don't use lights, right? So they just have the house lights on. It's quite bright when they're playing. That's cool, whatever. But we liked using theatrics, so we wanted to use lights. And they said, "Oh no, you can't use the lights." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Why can't we use the lights?" So that kind of thing. Like I can respect what you're doing, but you have to respect what I'm. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think they thought too much of us, but whatever.
Yeah.
But that was a great gig though. We actually used, I think, on the back cover of Fun Hurts and the kind of little insert thing. Those photos are from that actual Fugazi show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that is a great. There's not one bad song, and I've asked around, because I've got a certain style of music that I really like in the punk genre, and I loved every song on that album. And I've asked around, everybody, no one's ever said a bad word about any of the songs on Fun Hurts.
Thanks, man.
I don't know. It's just one of. I think it should be in the top 100 albums that have come out of Australia. Like, not pissing in your pocket. I just think that it should be in that top 100, even in the top 50, if you ask me. But yeah,
thanks, man.
It's a great album.
At the time, look, it was. it was kind of, look, it was a good record to make, you know. Like any record, when I look back, I kind of go, oh, I wish we had done that. I wish we had done that. But you always have those kind of regrets when you make records. You always listen back and go, oh, I should have done this, should have done that. But it was fun. We had a lot of fun when we were making
Uh,
that record too as well. You know,
when
and that
I
was,
when I was in, no, you go.
no, go on, mate. Go for it, mate.
When I was interviewing the Splatterheads, because I try and when I hear a song, I try and after I've heard it a million times, I love the song. I try and kind of dissect it. And when I was interviewing the Splatterheads, I was confused about what they were really singing about in Fish Biscuit,
Right.
which is one of my favorite all-time songs. And like that song is a complete head fuck, you know. What it just and and Sly explained it to me, and I'm thinking, okay, well that makes sense. That makes sense. What's sad about like
Um,
is
it's,
that about a relationship? Because that song really gets to me. I,
it's that's a great thing about songs, isn't it? Like I think I know with songs I like, sometimes you kind of put meaning into them, or they mean, you know, that's a great. I know this is a bit of a generalization, but that's a great thing about music and lyrics. They mean different things, you know, to different people. It's really just a. I mean, it's. I don't think it was about anyone specifically. It was more just, you know, I think it's about someone that's being used by someone. You know, when it says I want a piece of your mind, so it's a bit. It's really about someone being used. It's like observing someone that's being used. Probably that's probably the best way to put it. But we
and you
actually
know,
rehearsed that song the weekend actually.
okay, but you know how like you listen to a song and you think you know what the words are, and then you read it, and is it you're so horribly sad?
Yes.
It is. Thank you. Because
Yep.
the horribly, I didn't know if I was singing, well, in my head, singing horribly. Is that the right word? But yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
No, it is. I know. Sometimes I'm like that too. Sometimes you've been singing something in your head, you know, or in the car for like 20 years, and then you find out, oh, it's not what the lyrics are at all. It's something different.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think we had a
Well,
lyric check
that's
with that.
when yeah, yeah. When I when I asked Sly about Fish Biscuit, he kind of started off like he really didn't even know what the song was about, kind
Yeah.
of thing. He was like, "Yeah, I think it was." Like, and it turned out to be, you know, one of the biggest iconic songs in the punk scene at that time. But
Funny
even
thing
he
about
didn't
lyrics.
know really what.
I know, and look, it's an interesting point. And I think songs kind of take on a life of their own. And, you know, I remember the song for Body Jar that I did, that Not the Same, which is a really well-known song. And a friend of mine came up to me and
Yeah.
said, oh, that's about me, isn't it? I'm like, no, it's not about anyone. It's about nothing. But see, people infuse meaning into stuff. You know, they go, oh, that's got to be about that, or that's about, you know, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? You sort of
Yeah.
get different people get different, you know. I mean, I love the fact that you can listen to
Yeah. I think
music
it's
that puts you in a certain mood, you know, or it kind of enhances your mood or cheers you up or whatever, you know, whatever it's you want to do.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, more stories, more nursery crime stories.
There's a lot of stories. Some of them I can't really, I probably can't talk
We're
about.
R-rated. We're R-rated, so you can. I actually I like to find. Yeah, I try and ask this to every band I've interviewed. Is it hard being in a relationship, being in a band that's actually playing a lot?
Mm.
Is it hard to be in a relationship? Is like
Oh, look, I suppose yes. I mean, during the nursery crimes era, if you like, which is kind of 89 to 93, I was the only person in the band who was in a for most of that time in a permanent relationship. None of the others. The
okay,
others were through, you know, periods of it. It is, I suppose, because it's a bit dysfunctional because you're sort of away all the time, you know, and we did a lot, especially after the first year or so, we did a lot of touring, and we did big tours. Like we did a tour
Yeah.
with the Gurus, which was like 26 shows or something like long. That's what kind of killed us, I think. But long touring, it is. I think it is a strain on things because you sort of it's dysfunctional. You kind of all of us are kind of working a bit part time, but you can't sort of work full time while you're sort of touring. So it's a bit of it's all a bit weird. So yeah, I suppose the answer is yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to sort of probably navigate through relationships, especially when you're kind of younger too. You don't have perhaps that maturity, when you're in your early 20s or whatever, to sort of deal with stuff properly.
Well, that as you just brought up work as well, I suppose you could really ask the same question. How hard is it to have a job and being on the road a lot? Like it'd be the same thing as being in a relationship and being on the road a lot. Like,
Yeah.
do you do you say, okay, during your interview to get the job, do you say, look, I'm in a band, so there might be times where I can't come in, or like it's with down here in Wollongong. I know of a musician, and he's in 6 bands, and he works,
Only
and I
6?
wonder, yeah, he's in 6 bands, and I wonder how the fuck, like, he couldn't. It confuses me. Like, how does he know? Okay, I've got this on, but oh my god, we've just been offered this gig with this band, kind of thing. Like, but I've got to go to work at 6. Like, it'd be extremely hard, I think.
It'd be busy, yeah. Yeah. Oh, look, it is. And I think back to it's hard. I mean, even it's after Nursery Crimes. So when David and I were in Shreen, and James actually, so that's kind of 95, 96. And I was actually at uni full time then, and I was kind of working part time and doing the band. So it was kind of, it's a little version of what you're talking about. It was really busy, and you have to sort of, I think the way you have to deal with it is you have to cut out the partying, you just have to kind of, can't sort of, go partying after gigs every night and then kind of rocking up at work, the next day.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
It's kind of different. I think, look, a lot of guys I know, like, for example, I work a lot with the guys from Body Jar, and they still tour a fair. They don't play all the time, but all those guys have time jobs and careers, and they sort of do the band, here and there, but it's not a full-time thing. So I think you kind of find that balance a bit. But I think when you're younger, for me anyway, like because all I cared about was music, so that just came first.
Yeah.
The other stuff didn't matter. It's like I'm just laser focused. I'm going to do that. I don't give a fuck about anything else. And then you get a bit older and you think, hang on, right.
Yeah, no, understood. Like a lot of the bands that I've spoken to, and even bands that I know, a lot of them are in work as screen printers, or in that artsy part of the work, kind of that career. They're all, and I know at least 10 musos that are screen printers, and
someone that comes to mind, you probably know Mark Welsh from Have a Nice Day, but Mark's an old buddy of mine. Yeah, Mark and I were in collaboration together, but he's a great artist. He's a good tattooist. He does really good sort of airbrush work and paintings and stuff. He's quite really talented.
He made me the most amazing Charles Manson shirt.
Wow.
Airbrush.
Yeah,
airbrush. And it is amazing. He's back on the coast now I interviewed him last year with his new band, which guys from Lizard Kings and oh god, but yeah, he's still doing that. The guy is a tattooist. He illustrates surfboards. He's screen printer. When we
were in Soda Racer, he used to design all the flyers and stuff. So he was great. He did all. We always had really cool flyers and artwork for shows we were doing and that sort of stuff. Yeah. No, he's a talented lad.
He is, yeah, definitely. I was actually heartbroken when Have a Nice Day broke up because I think that was Asylum were great. I used to go see Asylum at Bombay Rock
Yeah,
and all that on the Gold Coast. But
yeah.
I think his his greatest success in music was Have a Nice Day.
Well,
You
they were
know,
Have a Nice Day was signed to Mushroom direct, so they had a major label deal, when they kind of
yeah,
came around. But we did a fair few shows with them back in the day, Matt. Like we did this is Nursery Crimes. We played a fair bit together. I think we might have played in Sydney together once or twice, but we did a lot of shows in Melbourne.
yep,
And that's how I kind of got to know Mark. And Mark and I actually had a band briefly after Nursery Crimes split up, which also had Jed from Killing Time in it and stuff as well, which we never actually ended up doing any shows of. What you want show actually. But no, he's a good Mark's a great musician too, like a good bass player and a really good guitarist. But yeah, Have a Nice Day.
right, yeah.
Certainly around for quite a while. Yeah, I remember seeing them before Mark joined, even in Melbourne, going to see them play.
Oh, okay. So Have a Nice Day will go on before he got with
Fiona,
what's the name?
Fiona is
Piano.
it?
Before he got with yeah.
Yeah. They
It
definitely.
was sad.
I remember going to see them in Melbourne, and it would have been. I can't remember when it was. It would have been in 1989, I suppose. And that was before he joined. So they were going for maybe not for a long time, but they were definitely going before Mark joined, and he must have come down to Melbourne, hooked up with them.
Do you, do you think that their music and their style was better once he joined, or just stayed the same? Or
Well, probably, I think probably he would have probably because when he joined, I think he was writing a few songs too, and then singing a couple as well. So he was
yeah,
he probably added
yeah,
a fair bit to it. And he's got quite a strong personality, Mark, as well, and that kind of comes out in bands.
yeah. I was talking to a friend that's in a band up here. I don't know if you've heard of them, called Headbutt.
Yes, Craig.
Yeah,
Yep.
Craig. Yeah. Well, I was I was talking to him about how I wanted to kind of get you guys Nursery Crimes up for a next year for a East Coast tour, like
Yep.
set you up. And he has been pleading with me, can we be one of the touring bands like that play with his? Like he loves you guys. He said, mate, it's not a week that goes by where I don't put Fun Hurts on.
Ah,
Kind of.
awesome.
Have you met Craig or spoken to him on?
Oh, look, I don't know. We might have crossed our paths, might have crossed at some point, but yeah, it'd be great. I'll have to check it. I've definitely heard them, like I've seen them on videos and stuff of them, but yeah, that'd be awesome. But we'd really love to come up to Sydney and play around New South in sort of March. Like that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. Well, I'll start getting onto that, which will be good.
So where did you see us play back in the day? Like, did you see many of the shows back in the old days?
Oh, Lansdowne, a
Yeah.
heap of times. Um, Petersham.
Yeah. Was that haunted? Was that what was that place called? What was the name? Was it the Haunted Castle or something? It had different names, that venue. Am I right? Or am I
Yeah,
something like that?
I can't now. I can't remember now,
I remember when the
but I'm
Slosh
sure.
Poppy toured in Sydney, which is in the end of 1988. I'm pretty sure we played there with SIC as well. That Lewisham.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Harold Park Hotel.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I've seen you guys,
Yeah, I
and I
remember.
think that was
Who was it with?
with the Hard-Ons. I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah, I've got a memory of a flyer from
I
that.
think
And
I've seen 25, 30 times. I've
we
seen
did
you
play
in
a lot.
Melbourne.
We did play a lot in Sydney. We
Yeah.
sort of really enjoyed playing there, so we went up quite a bit.
Yeah, and like I said before, I can remember the different times I've seen you with the different color of your hair. Like it was all, yeah, yeah,
Probably different
but
band members occasionally too.
yeah, yeah. And a punk's picnic, if I can remember, opposite the Lansdowne, or you guys might have played at the Lansdowne, and the punk picnic happened the
Yeah,
next day. But I can
something
remember,
like that. Yeah, I vaguely remember that too. Yeah, it was definitely something along those lines.
and I was talking to an ex, and she reckons we saw you at the Hope Town.
Yeah, we definitely played there a couple of times, Matt. I remember we did those Rock Against Work gigs.
Yeah, yeah, the Mondays. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we did one with Rat Cat,
yeah.
and
I think,
there was one we did there, and one of the guys from Mudhoney got thrown out by the bouncers. I remember, but we did one with the Splatterheads too. I think. I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah.
That
Wouldn't
was great.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. They were, I think they played every weekend, the Splatterheads, at
Yeah.
some place or another. Like I remember going to parties and the Splatterheads would be playing in one of the rooms, or they'd knock down one of the walls and yeah, they'd be playing. They put me in hospital. Um, I'd been awake for like, oh my God, 7 days, I think. I'd been awake, and I went and saw them at the trade union, and it was when they were doing one of their splatter shows. So they were all
Yeah.
covered in blood, fucking everything like that. And it just, I thought I was hallucinating. And I ended up having to put myself in hospital. But yeah, they didn't actually do it. I did it to myself. But yeah, when these splatter shows were just so out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But
that's
yeah,
pretty wild. But no, we had a lot of fun playing in Sydney, and it was a really, in some ways, we got we had a better following in Sydney. Maybe it's just because we weren't from there, but we did better up there than we did in Melbourne, really, to be honest.
did
So
you did you guys play with the Brady Bunch Lawnmower Massacre or something?
we did, and I can tell you about that. That was one of I think I think it was the second ever gig we did. Because we did our first gig, we supported Dinosaur Jr. at the Old Greek Theatre in Melbourne, which is a gig that we hustled our way onto the bill. We weren't even supposed to be playing. And that was our first gig. And
Yeah.
our second gig was at the Prince of Wales Hotel, supporting Fred Negro and Brady Bunch Lawnmower. And I remember Fred kind of, he'd say fairly obscene things over the mic, our Fred. And he'd kind of walk around to the audience and just let other people, sing. So at one point he gave the mic to me, and I was just kind of ranting on with some expletive laden tirade of abuse or something. But he looked at me and sort of went, "Nice." Then went to the next person. But yeah, definitely remember that was our second ever show.
When they played at the Lansdowne one night, I don't know why I was only young and drunk and everything, and we ended up, both Fred and I were both half naked on the stage, and I'm trying to sing. They were playing a Gravy song, actually,
Yeah,
Harassment,
yeah,
and I thought, oh fucking, this is my favorite ever song, Harassment. I'm getting up, and fucking I got up, and I think I was the first one to start taking my clothes off, and then he thought, "No, fucking, you're not gonna fucking outshine me or something." So he started taking his clothes off, and it ended up being some fucking weird situation. And yeah, because I remember looking down at everybody. This was at the Lansdowne. So if you can remember,
yeah,
the stage I had the
yep,
circular bar.
yes, yep.
Yeah,
Remember
and
well.
at the time, the bass guitarist of Space Juniors was working at the bar. He was working behind the bar, the long blonde dreadlocks. Dave, I think his name was. He was on
Yeah, I
bass.
remember those. We were really good friends with them and Gene, the drummer.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. You're right.
Actually, Mick Mediums, he's living in America now, where he moved straight after the juniors split up. He went over to America, and he's with. I did an interview with him. He's with some other band now, and he went to the Murder Junkies G.G. Allen's final ever show before he died. If you know who I'm talking, yeah. And he was telling me, a few stories about that gig. But he's still rocking. He's still rocking. As a lot of the bands that I used to see back in the 80s, and I've interviewed, and like, are you for sure that's you? You look nothing like when I used to see you, 30, 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mick Medium looks, and Mono Boulevard, he was on the on the interview as well, but he's getting too old. He didn't know how to do the Zoom, so he had to type his answers.
Okay. Old school.
To Mick, and Mick had to say, yeah, well, this is what Mono said, and it was funny.
I remember we definitely did a few shows with them. Probably our first, maybe even on our first Sydney tour. And I think Russell Hopkinson, who was our drummer at that time, I think Russell might have known those guys prior to that. But I remember there's photos of us drinking on the balcony at Lansdowne with those guys floating around somewhere.
They were great.
Yeah, good fun.
You're the only band you could go see play one set, and they'd be doing 35 songs in the one 35-minute set.
Yeah.
They were great. And Red Planet Rockets, even though they were kind of they were the same, really. I thought Red Planet Rockets was just Space Juniors with a couple of different musos in them. They still did that fast 30-second songs and all that. They were great to see live. I loved watching the Space
Juniors.
Did you
go to any of the old gigs, which would have been kind of 1990 in Sydney?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember seeing
Phoenician Club. There was one Phoenician Club, and there was one that we did with Rat Cat, and I think Toys Went Berserk at I can't remember. It was Newtown RSL or one of those places, or Paddington RSL, one of them. Yeah, they were good shows too. I think Have a Nice Day actually might have supported them and on the bill at what was the venue I mentioned before? The one that was on Parramatta Road.
The Phoenician.
Yes, that's it. The big joint. Yes, I think Have a Nice Day.
I remember seeing them with Concrete Blonde. I remember that. This is Have a Nice Day. I remember seeing Have a Nice Concrete Blonde, Have a Nice Day, Mudhoney, Have a Nice Day, Faith No More. They had a great manager, promoter, and everything, because I can't remember who their record label, Sony, I think it was they were.
Have a Nice Day.
Yeah.
Just Have a Nice Day. A Mushroom.
Yeah. We were just talking about that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Mushroom, but they were also booked through Premier Harbour. Yeah. So, and as were Nursery Crimes. So sometimes you have that weird situation where, see, bands like us were through those agencies, but other bands weren't doing it independently. But sometimes the benefit of being with those agencies got you on, allowed you to play with some of those internationals. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
But no, look, we always enjoyed playing in Sydney. Great. Look, we haven't done a headline show in Sydney for literally since for a long time, basically. So it'd be great to do it again.
Yeah, well, March is coming up pretty soon, so it'd be great to have you up here with Mark in March. Be excellent. Just to do Wollongong, Sydney, Newcastle, because we'll headbutt it from Newcastle, and they really want you guys there. I was talking to Craig. even up to Queensland, just do that whole East Coast tour would be, because everybody knows of everybody that was in that scene back then knows of the Nursery Crimes, and have only seen you if they got the chance with the
The
Descendants.
best thing for us would probably be to sort of, it'd be good to go to Queensland, but it might be tricky to put it together. You know what I mean? Like the best thing for us would be to do something that kind of went over a weekend,
Yeah,
just because of people's
yeah,
commitments and stuff like that. But definitely open to discussing ideas and that. The thing with the whole thing with us
yeah,
is that we just like I don't expect to make any money. It'd just be good to do it and not lose money. That's the
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
kind of
Well,
that's how I look
I'm
at
pretty
it.
sure you'll make a bit on merch. I know that.
Yeah.
That's where you probably get most of the money from, would be through your merch.
It's just that tricky thing with going interstate because if you're flying too, you're just really looking at covering airfares, and that's where
Yeah,
it gets tricky. Like, I mean, to be honest, when we played with the Descendants last year in Sydney, you don't say no to those kind of shows. We've got a little bit, but we still have to kick in a bit of money to make it happen. You know what I mean? We
yeah,
do it for the love of it, basically.
yeah, yeah. Well, the band I've got up in the esky that I've got coming up from Melbourne, they're actually driving up from Melbourne, getting to Wollongong, playing a gig, staying overnight, going to Sydney, doing a gig at Sydney Sunday night, finishing the gig and going back to Melbourne.
Yeah, I know that. Look,
Work.
mate, we did that all the time in the early 90s. I know a lot of that crazy stuff like playing shows in Adelaide till 2 a.m. and then driving back to Melbourne, just ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
I know. I know that all too well.
Mhm. It's a shame too, but that you can't renew, like, well, there's no Lansdowne anymore. Like
Yeah, weren't they having bands for a while? Weren't they having gigs again?
maybe they are. I haven't heard.
I'm pretty sure
I
the
was
Hard-Ons played there a couple of years ago. It might have been pre-Tim joining, not that long ago, like 3 or 4 years ago or something. But yeah, you're right. I know what you mean. Like, where's the best place to play in Sydney? Like, where do bands
mosh.
play?
I'd say the mosh pit. What do you think, Shay? Do, the best venue you'd play in? Shay, he travels around filming bands, making documentaries on Australian punk and all that. Are you listening, Shay, or are you on the
Yeah, yeah.
toilet,
Hey,
mate?
how you doing? Sorry, I was just doing something else, but I did hear what you said. The mosh pit, that's pretty good. Margaret Bolo, that's also pretty good. As you previously, the Vanguard, that's pretty good. Um, if you're willing to make a trip down to Penrith, there's a venue called Elton John, which is pretty rad. Um, Darling Nikki's, apparently that's pretty good. There's a handful.
No worries.
Darling Nikki's is good, but you've got to pay $350 to play. What I'm doing is I've got these bands playing there, and I'm doing the door, and I'm paying the 300. I've got to pay the 350 straight up,
Yep.
and I'm taking 100 off the door price. I'm taking $100 and saving the rest to divvy up for the bands,
Yep.
just to make it work.
Yeah.
Like I'm losing out $250, but it's just to have these bands play. I really wanted to do it, and
Yeah.
I promised. And it's the things you've got to do if you want to put a show together. It's like unless you're on the radio 10 times a day or something,
Yeah.
your music's not going to make any money. Like, as I think in the last interview we did, like I was told if someone listens to your song on Spotify, you get 0.0005 of a cent.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
for the ones. I think bands
it's pretty
really
crazy.
want it for the fun. really, these days. They're just doing it for the fun and whatever they get out of their merch.
I mean, we're going to be doing a new single early next year, which will be our first new music for since forever, basically over 30 years. But
Yep.
so we're going to do that. I don't know. I'd probably as a 7-inch single, but we'll probably just, if we can get a label to put it out, that's great. But otherwise, we'll just do it ourselves and just sell them at gigs and do it like, because you're right. I mean, and it's just for the love of it. It's not because you expect to sell millions of copies or anything.
Yeah.
You're right, because I have a bit of a problem with people just giving stuff away, You know what I mean? Like the whole culture now with music is you can just go and listen to it for free. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's like you and me walking into an art gallery and going, oh, I like that painting. Let's just fucking take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it kind of fucked the movie scene as well, and people aren't going out and buying movies, they're just burning it or watching it on YouTube or something, or Netflix. I mean, I'm sure they don't get, I'm sure Quentin Tarantino doesn't get money every time someone watches, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on Netflix. You know what I'm saying?
I know. But see, you can look at songs, I've got songs that I've been involved with, they're mainly body jar songs that have had high amounts of viewing, on YouTube and stuff. But you think, but you get sort of, where does that all go? Somewhere. But I think I reckon, look, the best way to approach, the way I approach music now and what Nursery Crimes will probably be doing into next year is it's primarily just for the enjoyment and the fun of it. And if we can sort of, make a record and a few people buy it, then that's awesome, But we're just going to try and make a really great single. We've probably got about, Dave and I got about 8 new songs at least. So, we'd like to be able to do an album next year too, but we're going to start by just doing a single and see how we go.
Yep. Just a sneaky little question. Has their music slowed down or anything?
No, look, probably the new stuff is probably, it's probably, some of it sounds a bit like older stuff and the other stuff it's different, I suppose. Not really, no. It'll be different. I think the difference is when you get, for me anyway, personally, you're not afraid to take risks. Like I just, I think you're not as precious about stuff, Yeah. I just find with myself, I can't, certain lyrics, I think, I couldn't write shit like that now. You know what I mean? Like you think, I can't fucking sing that, But look, it'll be fun. It'll be, the kind of idea of getting together and recording some new music is really exciting, And
definitely,
if people like it, that's a bonus.
How long's it been since you've been in the studio?
With me personally, or with Nursery Crimes, or
you personally?
I've sort of probably about 2 years or something. I mean, I did a record with my cousin that I co-wrote some songs on, so I kind of did stuff on that. But that was 2018. I've done a couple of demo sort of things. But in terms of actually recording something to be released, it's been a while. And certainly for Nursery Crimes, the last thing we recorded was in 93.
Yeah. Yep. So when you did because you did the Descendants 217 as well, didn't you?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, we did a couple of shows in Melbourne and Enmore Theatre.
Yeah. Well, did you find there was many Nursery Crime fans there at the show? Like, did you get a good?
Right. Yeah? No, look, both the times we played in Sydney, like both last year at what's it called, that mental blank. What's the venue we played at last year? Metro. That was awesome. That was great. And the 2017 gig at Enmore Theatre was awesome as well. So they were great. Really great gigs. And we had Bill Gibson from Eastern Dark got up on stage and played with us, and we did I think Julie's a Junkie, I think, last year, and Johnny and Dee, I think, for 2017. So that was great.
Tongues, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was mainly Smelly Tongues, or was that the Eastern Dark?
Eastern Dark.
Julie. Yeah, right. Because I loved him in Smelly Tongues. I remember seeing them at at the Hope Town, Rock
Yep.
Against, but it was Rock Against War. It was
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Anzac,
yeah, yeah.
and they played. And I remember I was right up the front, and the way Bill was grabbing the bass strings, and like it was like he was just trying to rip the fucking bass string off the guitar, like the way he was just. I think the guy is amazing. I haven't heard much from him for a long time. I'd love to interview the guy actually because he was I the Smelly Tongues are one of my favourite bands back
Yeah,
then.
no,
I didn't really get into the Eastern Dark that much, but yeah,
yeah, well, we've been sort of jet playing Julie is a Junkie. So we're going to do that we've got a gig next week and then one on the 7th of December down here in Melbourne, which is our first kind of headline show for 17 years. So we're
wow,
doing, so yeah, looking forward to that. That'd be good.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, we've got a couple of gigs in sort of regional places in Victoria, kind of early next year. But the kind of loose plan is to, if we can, to go to Sydney around March-ish, and sort of see what comes up from there. We want to go to South Australia as well. Look, we want to go to Queensland as well. Again, it's just a matter of making it financially viable, to kind of do it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, well, that just fucking went into my head and then just blew back out.
Yeah, that's all right.
Fuck, I hate it when that happens. So yeah, you got the single. You got the single. Are you gonna just do the single, or are you gonna do the single and then a bit later bring out an album? Is there going to be a new?
Basically just that. That's what we'll do, Matt. Yeah, because we'll have enough songs. We've probably got 2/3 of the songs already. So what we'll probably do is record 3 or 4 songs and then see if we can get, I don't know, like an indie label to put it out, or we'll just do it ourselves or whatever, and then look at doing an album kind of a bit later and maybe in the middle of the year, that kind of thing. So it's more that we just got a stable lineup now. Like we had all these plans. We actually had shows booked in Sydney for March this year, but our drummer ended up leaving and stuff, so we had to we took a break for a while. So it took us a few months to kind of get everything back on track again. But it's
and your new how did your new drummer fit in perfectly?
Yeah, look, it worked out pretty good because I've known Dave Ross like years ago from the Caligula Mass Appeal kind of days, and in the mid-'80s he was in Civil Dissonant, who are an awesome Melbourne hardcore band in the mid-'80s, and so we used to do shows back then, and I used to go and see them, so I knew him from that time. And I saw he's in a band called Fun Again, right? And they just do it's literally a fun band. They do punk rock covers, right? They're great. I went and saw them play about 6 months ago, and I think they were great. So he was in my mind. So I just rang him up and said, "Look, is that something you'd be interested in doing?" But he's fitted in really well. It's great.
Yeah, Fun Again. I don't know. To me, they were they're an Australian version of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. Fun Again,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, they just, and I think part of the reason Dave was doing that was he sort of got back into drumming again over the last few years. I think it was just and for the singer, it was just an avenue to kind of have a bit of fun, belt out some songs, and just kind of get back into playing.
Yeah.
So no, they're great. But no, it's working out well, and I think one of the things that stopped us kind of doing more over the last decade or so is just not having the right people, in the band. Like you need to have some kind of it needs to it needs to kind of feel right. Otherwise, you just think, oh fuck it, it's too much trouble. Like it's you need to have people that kind of want to do it, and a good people that are enjoying playing.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got that now, so now I think that's why we kind of feel like, okay, let's go and record some stuff. Let's do it.
Yeah. So can't wait till you get up here. This is going to be great. It's been. I think, the last time I saw you was 2017. I saw you guys.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. It'd be great to play up in Sydney again and just sort of, yeah.
Isn't
It's
that
just,
great? Like the Hard-Ons played it the other night at Paddington Town Hall,
all right.
and that must have been so good for them because I remember seeing them at Paddington Town Hall late '80s with a band from Queensland called Thrust.
Yeah, I remember Thrust, Brendan, I think it was. Thrust, yeah.
Yeah, it was Brendan before the Hard-Ons were the Hard-Ons. They were called the Dead Rats,
Yep.
and Kesh was on vocals, and they had a guy Brendan Cretan on drums.
Yep.
And then when they finished school, Brendan moved to Queensland and started Thrust up, and then Kesh went on to drums and vocals and everything. But yeah, yeah. I don't even, why did we bring that up in the first place? I do not know.
Oh, you're talking about the Hard-Ons playing at Paddington RSL?
Playing at that gig, it must have been such a fucking great gig for them to play at Paddington Town Hall again.
Yeah.
After doing that in '87, and they gave away little not CDs, little single records per ticket. You go to the door to get in. You'd pay your ticket, and you get a single with yeah, it was great. They were giving away. I think I don't know. Like I said,
years ago, I remember talking to the Meanies about doing a split single together and some shows. It never eventuated, but yeah, I like those kind of things when bands do that. It's good.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't heard of split singles for years. I didn't think they were doing things like that anymore.
Yeah, I suppose it was more of a kind of a thing from the past, wasn't it? Yeah, people used to be a bit of that going on.
I think, and there was a lot of like a good relationship between the bands that were playing in that era too, kind of thing. Like I went to a gig not long ago, and after each band finished, they packed up and left. Yeah. And I'm thinking, like that's just it hasn't got that camaraderie.
Yeah.
So where the support band will watch the next support band, and support that support band, and then the next one, and the next one, and next one. But after each support band played, they just packed up and left. Did their gig, finished, and I thought, well, that's just really not in the band etiquette that used to be around.
Not in the spirit of things, is it? Yeah. I mean, I suppose in the kind of early '90s, we played a lot with the Meanies, Spiderbait, the Hard-Ons, but there was always a Cosmic Psychos. It was always good kind of friendship and camaraderie between all the bands. So, it was good. It was a good little scene that kind of existed, And then there are kind of other bands like Fun and Loader up in Sydney and, that kind of stuff. But yeah, look, I suppose things change a bit, don't they? Let's go through different stages,
I really, when I go see bands now, I really like to go see bands that I haven't heard of, and I go see them, and they're older than me, and they're still rocking. But and then you go, oh, actually, I remember him from some band, blah blah blah, and but a lot of the new bands that are coming out, the young bands, great to see them live and everything, but it just doesn't. There is, I can't say that as a thing. Like it's not all younger bands that are doing this, but there's just, I don't know. Like you said, the comedy, it's just kind of, it's just not the same. It's not the same. And have you found like with the younger generation bringing music in?
Oh, I don't know. Look, I think it's a thing with getting older, and I think, say for you and I, there's a certain kind of this kind of, I suppose, emotional attachment to that time in your life, because so there's all the memories and everything that represents in your life. And so you kind of hold that quite dear, and I suppose that's why people can go and see bands like us and the Hard-Ons now, because there's some kind of, there's obviously new people come and see the gigs too, but there's a lot of people there's a bit of nostalgia in there. I don't know, it's kind of weird because I've sort of, probably like you go through that, you see all these different scenes. Like I'm old enough to have been around in that mid-'80s, that full-on hardcore scene, with all your Depression and Vicious Circle and our band Parade and Massive Appeal and all those bands. And then it kind of morphed into that sort of the Nursery Crimes meanie Spiderbait, kind of era that the Hard-Ons are still in as well. And then it kind of went more into that 90s scene, which I was involved with, was at Body Jar, Friends of Romp, Toe to Toe, all those kind of bands, and then 1 Inch Punch, Mind Snare, and heaps of other really cool bands. And then so kind of there's all these different little scenes, I suppose, and little time frames of things that move along,
I'd like to in the future, like we're booked out for about 4 or 5 weeks, but I'd like to do a part 3 because I just love talking to you, Phil. It's
happy to, mate. Hey, mate, just let us know and we'll hook it up again. I'm happy to, and I really appreciate the support. Happy to do it again, mate. No worries.